So I'd like to visit an old friend of mine, which is a quote by Carl Rogers. And he said, "The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, I change." Now, in just selecting this this quote again, on the searching it out on the internet, I came across two versions, and the kind of more common version on the internet, that last bit of the quote, it says, "When I accept myself just as I am, I can change." But the first version I came across said, "The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I change." And I don't know, but I'm rather hoping that that second version is the original quote, because it actually says something slightly different. It tends to be on the internet when something looks like there's a typo been made or a word missing, is that people put it in and then it becomes the accepted version. It could be the case, but when Rogers says, "Then I change," that seems to mean that the acceptance has already created the transformation. Whereas if he's saying, "When I accept myself just as I am, then I can change," that implies that the change has not yet taken place, but that the acceptance is a foundation for the change, which is also true. But I like that second slant, because the change has already occurred in the moment of acceptance, which is why it's a paradox, right? Because, of course, just as I am implies there hasn't been a change, but the change comes with the attitude towards that how I am. And so I'm going to give you a brief litany of my possible kind of health diagnoses, and these are all things that I wouldn't have wanted to share with you 20 years ago, certainly not 25 years ago, maybe not even 15 years ago. Throughout my life, I've had a number of kind of changing involuntary tics, which through investigation, would add up to diagnosis of Tourette's syndrome. And often something that comes with this is obsessive compulsive tendencies, which I've also and continue to kind of visit me here and there, mentally, physically, behaviorally. Anxiety, particularly when it comes to change. Kind of like I don't tend to be particularly easy with change. And so I'm someone who tends to kind of prefer kind of routines and regularities. And when I've taken the occasional online test for autism, I tend to come out somewhere just on the edge. Not kind of just on the sort of borderline. Not that I've ever had this done professionally. And I've experienced various periods of depression, and tend to be fairly introverted, but quite focused, which also goes along with some of those other tendencies. And the reason why I'm telling you this, there's no reason why you need to be interested, but I'm telling you kind of in service, I hope, of my discovery, and perhaps the discovery that comes with mindfulness training, that 25 years ago, firstly, I wouldn't have noticed. I wouldn't have noticed these patterns. And if I had noticed them, I would have very strongly avoided any kind of diagnosis, any kind of suggestion that there was something that wasn't fully perfect about at least about who I was striving to be, kind of a self-image, if you like. So being quite dependent on a self-image that was actually in considerable discrepancy with my humanity and all of those manifestations of that humanity. Because I'm saying these, by the way, not because I'm particularly interested in diagnoses, only insofar as they are useful pointers sometimes to patterns. But because the not knowing of who I was and am, and also the recognizing that, you know, some things can't be changed by the force of mind, the force of will, the force even of practice. We talk a lot in mindfulness about how practice changes things. You know, neuroplasticity. You meditate, your wires in your brain change. You become different. And that's true to some degree because we do change. But what changes actually most of all is our relationship to ourselves as we are. And from that, a whole wellspring of creativity can emerge. So that's why I'm so attracted to Carl Rogers's quote, because the transformation coming from the acceptance is what's really profound. And I think it's kind of countercultural and counter, sometimes even in mindfulness training, you know, we can sometimes get caught in this of like, well, I'm practicing mindfulness in order to be someone else, in order to be different. Of course, there are ways that we can change over time with practice, gradually, gently. But there's also a lot of stuff about ourselves that are something we didn't choose about ourselves, like thrown into our personalities. I don't know if anybody at least remembers getting a choice. You know, which kind of person would you like to be? Do you want to be this kind of person or that kind of person? It's like, oh, we're kind of born into who we are. And there's a lot of that is not kind of immediately amenable to the force of will. However, the willingness to accept traits, at least in my experience, has tended to free me from the, if you like, the secondary depression that would come from that mismatch between how things are and how I would have liked them to be. So curiously, the freedom of mindfulness training has come from a kind of a big sigh of relief into it's all right to be me just as I am. That doesn't mean I'm not going to work on stuff. It doesn't mean I'm going to resign myself to not cultivate and learn and sometimes challenge myself. But from the foundation of it's already completely okay to be just who I am. And for you to be already okay just as you are. I don't know how you're feeling necessarily right now tonight. You know, some of you may be feeling really great, some of you not so much. But however you are just now, is it possible that that's completely enough? I really like a definition of stress that's given by the meditation teacher Sylvia Boorstein, where she says that stress comes from the mind's inability to accommodate reality. It's like that kind of like jarring from, it's not like this and I want it to be like this. And freedom comes from a willingness and a learning to accommodate. So if you like, if there is any work, it's primarily in the willingness to accommodate reality as it is. And then, of course, there's the paradox that already changes the reality. So by not focusing on change, by not trying to suppress or avoid through struggle, we can come to an acceptance, because that's really the theme tonight, is acceptance. We've been working through some of the attitudinal foundations of mindfulness. And acceptance is one of them. That from this acceptance, relaxation springs, friendliness springs, humor can spring, playfulness can spring, creativity can spring. And the the kind of the in our own different ways, the depressions that can come from that mismatch between wanting and reality can begin to dissolve. So acceptance then, if you look at it definitionally, sometimes when a word begins with "a," that applies moving towards, and "sept," the center of that word, implies holding. And so when we accept, we move towards and hold what's here. Very different from sometimes acceptance as, oh, I can't do anything. It's not resignation. It's a moving towards and holding. And we might add with love. So the paradox is that we can practice this moment by moment by accepting reality as it is. Practice of no practice, if you like. So I'd like to invite you to join me, if you will, in a practice of mindful acceptance, moment by moment. And again, remembering that if what I'm suggesting is not what you need just now, then feeling free to not follow what I'm saying. So once again, inviting you to choose a way of being physically that supports you, to be gentle with yourself. And maybe the bell just signaling an invitation to let go of all attempts to be different or to make the moment different from how it is. That's our usual mode. That's the habit mode. So just for now, and moment by moment, you don't need to be anything that you're not. So if you're coming with your tiredness, or you're coming with your stress, or you're coming with your physical pain, mental pain, then you are welcome. You are welcome. Just to get a sense of the body as it is right now. Contact with the floor or seat, and the air and the environment around you. Noticing how you are held in this environment structurally and through the flow of oxygen and warmth. That to some degree your body is self-regulating. And you don't have to try to make that happen. In fact, in the moment, at least, you can't force it to happen. So just letting the body be its own regulator. And that doesn't mean you have to feel any different from how you are now. Breathing is regulating itself through the flows of in and out breath. So letting that happen. And if you like, just letting attention flow to the movement of breath in your belly. whatever the current flow of thinking or of reacting, impulses to tighten or push away, ignore or resist what's going on. Can these be met with an allowing of the tendencies? If the experience is currently pleasant, it might be an appreciative acceptance. Ah, yes, letting this be without grasping, to hold on, but rather to ride the waves. If you find it helpful to anchor to a particular point in your body, such as the breath in the belly, hands or feet, then feeling free just to direct attention to one of these regions. This not meaning that other experiences need to be tried to be shut out, but rather just to let them be in the background. So an acceptance of all phenomena still, even as we anchor to a particular place and practice letting be. How you are just now is completely enough. So all that's needed here is a moment to moment going with the flow of breath sensations, perhaps, or body sensations more widely. And allowing whatever else is here to be acknowledged. Nothing need be captured or batted away. Just this. Opening with friendliness to this, whatever this is in your mind and body at the moment. And being human is a moving feast, so there are inevitably fluctuations from moment to moment, different thoughts, emotional tones, urges that arise as we practice. And is it possible to completely surrender to these as they are, to accept ourselves completely as we are? And noticing what is different when I offer this surrender to this complete surrender to the phenomena of the moment within me and around me. This, of course, will not feed the desires of the driven mind, especially if it's got an idea about what mindfulness is supposed to do for it. And that's okay. We're dropping into something more nourishing than that particular type of meal, more deeply and sustainably nourishing, which may not make itself apparent right away. So our practice is very simple, just coming back to the lived experience of this moment, body and mind in awareness, as best we can, with no goal to judge ourselves to or against, no standard to compare ourselves to, and a willingness to say, yes, I accept this. Doesn't mean you have to like it or dislike it, but to say, yes, I move towards and hold this. I am whole with this. I am completely whole in the midst of this. This is not to say that there aren't moments for taking action and doing things quickly. But right now, can we practice this underutilized skill of non-doing? trusting that when I accept myself just as I am already changed. May I love myself just as I am. May I meet this moment completely in friendliness. May I let the benefit of stillness arise. A benefit that doesn't require a particular state to be held in that stillness. It may not be a still state to which we are bringing this gentle presence. Whatever it is, accepting it fully for now, as best we can. And taking your time, and when you're ready to bring the eyes open and revert to the screen, you're most welcome.